Good morning, Joyful Joints. Here we are. It is Tuesday again. Tuesday at 11:30 is when we go live with our Joyful Joints classes. This month, we are focusing on what's called the cleansing physical exercises from the book, Your Hands Can Heal You. I showed this last week. This is the book, Your Hands Can Heal You by Master Stephen Coe and Dr. Eric Robbins. And if you'd like to follow along, it has a lot more tips and tricks on ways that you can live a more energized life. You can be more energized in your body. You can feel less fatigue, less stress. There's a lot of things. So the cleansing physical exercises that we're focusing on are designed literally to be something you can do on a daily basis. And the way it works is something like if anybody's ever had to take a steroid, right? What you do is you ramp up the effects or the drug in the body over time. So that's what the cleansing physical exercises do without a pill. You literally start to practice and you start to build up energy. And through consistent practice, that energy just keeps building over time. If you stop, of course, we will come back, maybe not all the way to your starting point, but you'll definitely be able to notice and feel a difference. So our work this month is to practice daily for the whole month, and then send us some messages of like, what did you notice when this became a practice or a habit? It's something you can't do too much of. However, in our Joyful Joints way, we are going through the exercises so that as we perform them habitually, we are doing it in a way that is helpful to the spine, helpful to the way that our body is meant to move. Our posture will be this clean, clear, healthy dynamic versus something that we're fighting against and constantly grinding, right? If two bones come together to make a joint, they're designed to sit in a certain way where they move with the least amount of friction, the least amount of tearing up. But if we, along through life, that gets to be put in a not exact place, and then we start continuing to force that joint to move, right? Either it's compressed or it's gotten a little bit out of alignment, and then we're forcing it to continue. There's a lot more friction, and that's when we have things start to tear up, okay? And that's what we call old age. So if you'd like to reduce the effects of living longer on the planet, then one of the things we can do to help ourselves is to work with our skeleton and make sure that those joints are all working in the least frictionless way possible. All right. Least frictioned way possible. All right. So let's review from last week. Starting from the top down, we did the exercises last week seated, so let's go ahead and stand, because as we get to the lower body exercises, which we ran out of time for last week, actually it might have been on purpose, then we'll be already standing. So starting with number 1, I'm going to go ahead and follow along so that I do in the exact same order that you're going to find in this book, Your Hands Can Heal You. We begin with eye rotations. So we stretch the eyes up, and they circle around first to the right, hitting all of the edges of that circle, making it as smooth as possible. This is number 3. Number 4, the magic number is to do 12. 6, there's 7, 8, 9, 10. Why do we start exercising and I continue to cough? 12. All right. You guys just have that effect on me. Let's go the other direction. We circle to the left now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stretch, stretch. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now, if you missed last week's class, you might want to go back and do that first so that we can do the exercises with a little more clarity or understanding. But if you're going through the exercises and they also feel comfortable, please continue to play along. The next exercise, neck rotation. So we bring our throat to the back of our neck. We find that head sitting directly on top of our shoulders, and we turn to the right and to the left. The idea is to keep the throat feeling strong and contracted into the middle of your neck. Reminder, you can reach further by looking with your eyes. Good. And we do 12 in each direction. Let's call this 9. Might not be quite there. 10, 11, and 12. Very good. So those are our neck rotations. After that, we gently move our head up and down. Reminder, we want to keep our throat strong. Lift your head up and back, up and forward. So continue to think about your head being suspended from the ceiling. So there's an upward lift through the center of our body, decompressing our spine, decompressing the joints in our legs, which we're going to focus on after this review. Excellent. Let's call that 9 again. 10, 11, and 12. Very good. Excellent. Neck rotations, that's exercise 2. Number 3, we move into shoulder rotations. So we started just arms out, and we're going to rotate so our thumbs are backward, curl the fingers. Now this is something that we can do to help our shoulders learn how to circle, but then really we can do full arm circles. Again, a lot of us out there might have some difficulty or a lot of discomfort. Reminder, you can also touch your hands on your shoulders, just learning how to get those arm bones circling backwards. Forward, it's out, curl, thumb is pointed forward, and we circle to the front. We circle to the front. Yes. So we're holding, and then maybe it feels fine. We can do big arm circles. Releasing tension at the armpit. We might also put our hands on our shoulders. There you go. Fantastic. Next one on our list, I believe, is the wrist rotations. So with our arms straight, reminder, we don't want to twist our arm, just circle from the wrist itself. Sometimes people like to only do fingers. Nope, nope, nope. Let's get those wrists going. 12 going outward and 12 going inward. Beautiful. Yes, going into hand looseners is what it's called. Stretch and open. So you're opening the hands, closing the hands. Open the hands, close the hands. Right. Big stretch of those hands, big stretch of the fingers. Good. 9, 10, 11, and 12. Moving into torso twists. And this is where we're going to, it's a little more challenging when we're standing versus seated. So we want to have a stable belly button down. So my pelvis, my pants do not move. I'm going to move above the navel, rotating my torso. And then coming back and rotating the other direction. I'm holding my hands up to remind me. Last week we put our hands on our heart. This is not throw the arms. I see a lot of this going on, and now I'm not really getting a torso twist. So by stopping my arms from being able to move against my body, I get a real twist of the torso. Now, while we're thinking about this standing up, to stabilize the lower part of the body, let's imagine my left shoulder is going forward, my right shoulder is getting pulled back. So feel the push forward and the pull back at the shoulder level. Then go back and think about the pelvis. Did it turn with you? Let's take the right hip forward while the right shoulder goes backward. Yes, so those are in opposition to one another. Whew, that makes a difference, doesn't it? Other direction. Rotate left shoulder back. The right shoulder comes forward. Did your left hip go with you? If so, we didn't do a torso twist. We want to push that left hip forward while the left shoulder goes back. Okay, that's how we get a torso twist. Now, I'm saying shoulder and hip just to give you landmarks. In reality, it's my rib cage. Right ribs going back, left ribs coming forward, right hip going forward, left hip going back. So I've got my whole spine growing tall and rotating. I can use my eyes to look back and get a little more, and I can breathe here just to see if there's a little more. Woo! Other direction, rotate. One side of the ribs goes back, one side pushes forward, the opposite for the pelvis. Good. Left ribs go back, left hip, left pelvis goes forward. Look with the eyes, reach a little further. Take a nice deep breath. You might get a little more rotation out of it. Good. So once you've identified and you're able to move the rib cage above the pelvis doesn't go, that's when you can speed up. That's when you can let your arms come up and out. Okay? And we've got 12 of those. All right. Moving into our new exercises. So next one up is called hip rotation. So we're going to spend some time figuring out where our hips actually are. In real life, we tend to say, put your hands on your hips, and we do this. That's actually my waist. I'm here at my navel. I've got the soft part. My hands are resting actually on the top of my pelvis. In reality, we need to slide our hands down until we find this bump here on the sides. It's part of the top of your thigh bone that's then going to sit inside the pelvis. So we said a joint is where two bones come together. My leg bone meets my pelvic bones, and it forms this joint, which is a ball and socket joint, right? Remember that from whenever you learned it? In middle school, elementary school, something like that. And that's way down here. That's what we're moving now. So we're going to practice both the right way and the not so right way. Well, okay, they're just different. Maybe they're not right. I want you to try to push this part of your leg from side to side, okay? I want you to do that without making a bend in your back. So if my hips are pushing from side to side, my upper body is reacting by bending. I am not bending my body to make my hip go. That's some kind of weird dance going on there, okay? Now, many of us have lost the ability to sway from side to side here, okay? And I do want to mention, to have a strong and firm foundation does not mean it is rigid, okay? Rigidity, when the storms come through, creates massive destruction. We want to have flexibility, and I hope you guys will read the caption. We had some tornadoes here last week, which directly affected one of our partner businesses. And the business itself was very flexible. The building was a little bit more rigid. So we actually lost the back wall there. So I'm encouraging you to be able to weather storms by creating flexibility in your body, okay? Now, what would be the different way of doing that? What if I was all locked up in my actual hip and my body, my brain had decided this is my waistline? You might start looking like a little hula dancer as I ask you to move your hip from side to side, okay? This will ultimately create a lot of force and friction in the lower back if it's not stretched out well. And that's one of the ways that we can tear up our lower back and the vertebra. You'll hear people talk about having degenerative disc disease and herniated discs in that area. That's all just a function of the bones of the spine have compressed, and then we try to move them a lot. So you can imagine if it compressed and you have lockdown hips, so your lower back is pretending to be a hip, that's going to cause a lot of wear and tear, okay, in a short amount of time. So keep the hips moving and see if you can figure that one out. Now, not only can they go side to side, but these hips can also flex forward and backward, okay? So as I flex, I push my thighs forward, I push my thighs back. You notice my upper body, my back is not bending. If you draw a line, my spine is staying in a straight line. The moving component is right here. This is the angle that's changing, okay? What if that angle didn't change? It would look like this. And you notice when I go back, my belly pops out, right? That's not extra fat. That's me putting my internal organs in front of me instead of holding them in. You see that? One, bleh. Okay? But if I hold that solid and I don't let movement happen in my back, I get to train my hips to do a better job. Now, I want to show you something very practical why we want to keep that open. Because every time I take a step, if I reach out with one foot, all I do here is balance. In order for me to walk, I have to push and open my hip to get onto this leg. You see that? I reach forward, but if I don't do something with my standing leg, I have to push it back, opening up that hip angle. So if your body is resistant to moving there at the hips, it's going to walk in more of a shuffle. You see that? I'm keeping my hips bent and I'm moving along by only pushing from the knee. All right? So again, the hips are so important to have moving properly. It has implications for the lower back. It has implications for your knees. So as we go through these cleansing physical exercises, it's a circular motion. A circular motion at the actual hip. It is not a samba. Okay, we'll save that for later. We want to cleanse and energize our body appropriately here at the hip level. All right, so we would do 12 to the right and then 12 to the left. So we've put together our side to side and our front to back, and we've created a circle. It helps if I draw my navel in to the middle of my body, just like earlier we did our throat. Try to keep that navel in the center of your body and not let it spill out over the front of your jeans. There's actual muscles that do that. All right, so that's hip circles. It's so important. It looks so easy, but it is such a forgotten movement, such a compensated for movement, and one that will give us a lot of benefits down the road. I'll tell you a story. We had a client who's been practicing with us and has had the hips got really, really tight. The knees have been replaced already. And we're like, come on, let's get those hips moving again, even though it was really, really hard. Like they didn't want to move much at all. But this student was so good at just coming in and being playful about it and doing what they could and noticing incremental improvements every single week. You know what happens when you have incremental improvements over time? You get a big one. Yeah. And so what was noticed was on their beach vacation, they were able to sit in those little low beach chairs and actually get up out of it, which was absolutely not possible 1 year ago. So we count those types of things as wins. It wasn't what we were after. We weren't like physically seeking to get out of our beach chair, but it was a lovely side effect. All right. So after hip circles, next exercise is called quarter squats. So not sitting all the way down, but just a quarter of the way down. A quarter, not even halfway, not even to thighs there, but just these little quarter squats. Now, if you experience doing little quarter squats, by the way, this is the one exercise that is not 12. We do about 50 of these. 50 of these. And these really energize the body, okay? If you start to do them and the first thing you say or notice is, my knees hurt, I can't bend my knees. This is a problem. We need to be able to bend our knees in life. Because if you can't bend your knees, how are you going to get in that chair? You're going to compensate. You're going to drop into it. How many times do we sit and stand? How many times do you get stuck sitting and can't make your way back up? This little baby exercise is going to help us. Now, let's talk about some things. Weight on our heels. Okay? Draw your hips. So sometimes when I say weight on the heels, people drop and dump. There's my belly again, but my weight's back on my heels. But look how crooked my spine is. So I want to pull my thighs back so that this point of my hip is right over the point that is my ankle. Okay? That's how we line up. We don't want the hip behind your ankle. We don't want the hip in front of your ankle. We want it right on top. And that is when we sit as well. Sometimes we sit and our hips fall forward. We rock into the balls of our foot and we're putting all the pressure into our knees, okay? Now, our knees should be able to handle that, but if we can't sit back here also, then it's not healthy. So sitting into our heels, my spine is staying straight. The other thing that can happen is I can tip my pelvis forward so my tail kind of points out the back. Now my back muscles are really involved in the squat. Also not very good for our skeleton. So keep the tail pointed straight down at the heels. Notice I can stand up perfectly straight now. And that's what we want to do with our quarter squats. Now, it might take you some time because this is actually a function of making the hip and the ankle, the strong parts in our squat, taking the pressure off the knees. Okay? Now, what happens with some people? Are we to 50 yet? I don't know. Keep counting. Some people whose knees haven't moved all of a sudden realize, oh, I can do that. And then the knees move through this range of motion, which is new or unfamiliar. And then the next day, we feel sore in the knees. Well, yeah, they haven't worked like that. The muscles around, the tendons around haven't worked like that for years, potentially decades. Now it can, which is a great thing, but we then have to manage how much we do. Don't go to excess. Does that make sense? And then do things to help not make so much inflammation that now you can't move at all right? So there's some common sense in here around how hard do we push. As we make these shifts, there's a reason why your knees stop moving in the first place. So we want to be kind. And again, small increments over time. Yes. Okay. So maybe you don't do as many as 50 when you just started getting some motion in your knees, or maybe you make them smaller. Okay. Or maybe you hold on to something so you take a partial weight off. But ideally, a minimum function would be I can walk to this chair and I can sit down without falling into the chair. Okay? Awesome. And I believe in you all. I believe everybody can work themselves back to that if given enough motivation, if it's important enough to you. All right. What's next? Actually, the book says do 100 of those. The next one is called knee rotations. Now, safety in this one. So again, if your knees have become rigid, they're supposed to be flexible and able to move in a lot of directions, but sometimes they've locked down because we don't have stability in our hips or our ankles or somewhere else. So for this next exercise, I need for you to put your feet all the way together. Just that might be challenging because you might be saying my knees are in the way. Well, they're in the way because they need to work on this. So we're going to put our hands on our knees. And this is my feet staying flat on the floor. I'm sitting down, not arching my back, pulling my navel up, and squeezing your thighs together. Squeezing together these inner thighs, relaxing around the tushy area. Relax around the tushy, squeeze your thighs, and then very gently make circles with the knees. So it's the knees, but it's the shin bone part of the knees that we're focused on. Have your shin bone go round and round. Now, you might just start off with a little gentle side to side, trying to keep your feet flat on the floor. If your feet are rolling all over the place, not good. Keep the feet still and maybe make your motion a little bit smaller. Then you circle to the right for 12, ultimately, and then to the left. So we are asking our shin bones to do that motion, and we're making sure, see the knees are bent? I'm not just standing, leaning over and touching. Bend those knees, okay? All righty. Now, an alternative to that is just hold on to the chair and then just kind of swirl your leg or kick out your leg, really relaxing the lower part, just to give some looseness to the knee, right? The knee is another one of those joints that gravity will compress. The bones will get smushed down on top of each other. And then as we try to move it, there's that grinding again. So we don't know how much our knees have been torn up unless you've recently had an MRI or some kind of scan. And you know, as some of us, our knees have already worn out and we're using our replacement apparatus. It's okay, you still need the same exercises, especially if you already have replacement apparatus, okay? Still do these exercises because that will keep this new hardware moving and working properly, and then it will help us to rework the joints that fell apart in the first place. Does that make sense? All right, so next one, ankle rotations. I love ankle rotations. So you can hold on to something for balance. We pick up one foot. Now, when we do the ankle rotations, I like to keep the knee soft, not a stiff knee. Now, you can do it with a straight leg, but I like to do it with a soft knee just to see if my ankle can really function on its own without my leg having to be so tense, okay? So it's literally from the ankle joint, making that foot do circles. So I'm thinking about the middle of my foot, the sole of my foot or the top middle is what's going round and round. Now, when people have a bit of neuropathy, sometimes that's hard and the toes start to really do extra work. Try to relax the toes and the ball of the foot. So the work comes back into the ankle. That goes both directions. So outward and then inward for 12. Now, notice I'm trying to get to that flexion and all the way to that extension as I go around in my circle. This happens to be my leg that gets tired faster. So the outside part of my shin is getting really, really tired. That's where some of the muscles live to make the circle happen. Let's do the other foot. So we balance, we pick it up again. Relax your toes. Find all the way to flexion. How much flexion can you get? Should be past 90 degrees, smaller than 90 degrees. And then how much extension can you get? And we want that to be about 180. Okay, and then as we circle the middle of the foot. Now, if balancing is difficult, your body's getting tired, sit down. Practice your foot circles from a seated position. And then reverse. Again, you could do a straight leg. That's a whole different ball game. I like to practice with a soft knee because if my whole leg is wagging around, I know I've got some, again, that neuropathy, a lack of communication between my brain and that part of my body. That's all neuropathy is, you guys. And why does it show up so much in the feet? Because the feet are the furthest part away from the brain. That's why. It's not something special. Neuropathy is not only something you can have at your foot. Here we go. Up and down is the last one. Really pumping that energy through your foot. Very good. And boom. So yeah, being able to move our foot in all these directions, just like with the eyes, there will be parts of the circle of your foot that are harder to get to, and you want to practice on those, right? Clean up all the parts of the circle. Now, the very last exercise in our physical cleansing exercises, again, the book, I'll show you one more time, is Your Hands Can Heal You. Ta-da! That's what it looks like. You can get it on your Kindle. You can get a physical copy if you like to make notes in it. All right. And we shake in place. It's the last one. It says simply bounce on the balls of your feet, shake your arms and hands for about 30 seconds. So just bouncing and bouncing. And what this does, it just kind of integrates everything together. Everything is in motion. Everything is going, hey, brain, I'm moving. And the brain's like, oh, great, I see that you're all there. And now we can bounce in unison. And we'll be all talking to each other. And inside our body will just be this lovely space of communication and peacefulness. Now, after you bounce, just stop for a moment and close your eyes. And be aware of the stillness. Be aware of how peaceful you might feel. throughout the body. Maybe even our thoughts and emotions feel more peaceful after we physically cleanse our body using these exercises. Maybe you are even perceptive or sensitive enough to sense some of that energetic feel coming through your body. Maybe it feels like it's buzzing a little bit. It's waking up. It's ready to greet the day or to greet the next task you have at hand. All right, and you may open your eyes. So that is, we've spent most of our time understanding the lower body exercises today. Next week, we're gonna run through all the exercises again and show you how you can actually elevate the exercises. Remember, loading from some of our previous classes. We're gonna load some of the exercises by using our balance device. We'll see what else comes through. But it was great being here with you guys today. Thank you all who are here live. I love, love, love sharing this energy and sharing this time with you. And well, let's get those hips moving. Let's get that foundation ready to go. So any storms that come up, we can weather them with the most possible grace and flexibility. All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.